Good afternoon. This is Jeff Dawson. I haven't posted a video in a while. I've been writing a lot of articles that are kind of too long-winded to do a video on, but this morning I've been watching these executive orders that Biden has been signing, and many I have commented on. Well, I've got two right here that I just want to go over. And with the stroke of his pen, all drilling on federal lands is suspended. How many jobs is this going to cost during a pandemic and beyond? How many rigs will Halliburton and Patterson have to park? How many high-paying union and non-union jobs are going to be lost? Joe, this is not a transition, as you said. This is an abrupt stoppage of work. Or do you and the elite not understand how this works? You just don't stop something unless you have something to replace it with. The horseless carriage didn't replace the horse overnight. It took decades, and people were able to adjust and find other jobs as their industry began disappearing. Hell, even the military didn't eliminate their cavalry divisions overnight. And I want to thank a friend on Facebook who I spelled cavalry improperly because there are two different ways to do it. Art, that was a good catch. Thank you. They were slowly phased out as men were trained how to operate and maintain the new technologies. You know where these drillers and workers are going to go if they qualify? Overseas. Many will take their families with them, reducing the collection of U.S. tax dollars. You say buy American, but when it comes to energy, your policies are doing the opposite. Well done, Joe. Well done. What will you do tomorrow? I just don't get this. I mean, Carter started the Energy Department with one goal, so America could be energy independent, and this was 1977. Trump finally achieves it, and now we're going back to where we used to be, beholden to foreign oil. Does that make any sense to anybody? And if it does, please tell me why it makes sense. How many billions of dollars have been spent with the Department of Energy to make us independent of foreign fossil fuels? I can't even find a number on that. But guess what? That's where we're headed. Yeah. What are you going to do tomorrow, Joe? Okay. Now let's talk about the border wall. Today, by EO, the border wall is being shut down. Well, that's not exactly true. Let me say this first. I was not a proponent of the wall. Why? Walls are a fixed fortification and they can be breached over time. Example, the Great Wall of China, the Berlin Wall. While they are formidable obstacles, unless properly manned and surveilled, they will be defeated over time. I was pleased with all the jobs it provided, but still, it's a fixed fortification to anyone with a military background or a novice in military tactics through the centuries realize that walls are a deterrent, but they can be defeated. I mean, during the Afghan and Iraqi wars, we've heard of IEDs, we've heard of mines. Well, mines came up when an enemy would attack a castle and they would mine underneath the wall. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you see that, and I don't remember which movie it was. I think it was the third one in the series, the original series, before they went back to The Hobbit and all that, and did all their background like Star Wars did. But you can defeat a wall. It's not easy. It takes time. It takes planning. We saw that with Mehmet II when he tried to take Constantinople. Had to get through those pesky walls. And it wasn't an easy task, but it finally fell. Okay, that aside, let me go on. But yeah, I was not a fan of it from the beginning. I was more into a virtual wall using the technology we have available today. While hard construction is being stopped, the project itself is still alive. According to a Fox 59 story from Indianapolis, the redirected funds most likely involve reappropriating the money for virtual security technology along the southwest border with Mexico, such as for mobile surveillance tower systems, the installation of infrared cameras, and floodlighting, and to continue building all-weather roads along the border for Border Patrol agents to better patrol the Rio Grande, analysts have told Border Report. Now, this is encouraging in the direction I wanted Trump to take. I believe both methods can be employed to keep our southern borders safe. Both of them. Not just one. You're going to have to look at the geography from Texas to California, through Mexico, and Arizona. In some places, a wall will work. But remember, it's got to be properly manned and surveilled. In other places, virtual technology will probably be more effective. Think about it. Let's take both and combine them. Now, hopefully, that's what Biden's going to do. But we won't know for 60 days because that's the moratorium. However, there's another caveat to this little deal. Okay, you shut down the construction. Do you think that's the end of it? That today it's over? For those of us in construction, we know better. And here's the rest of the story. Now let's look at the fallout, and it is massive. Anyone who signed a contract knows there are consequences for breaching a contract, whether it be the owner or the contractor, and they are severe. In this case, the government is defaulting on the contract. I was involved in one of these cases 12 years ago. The contractors just went to a cost plus method. That means whatever their costs are for performing the remaining work that has to be done to maintain the integrity of the sites and restore it to its original condition, well, this is over and above the original contract they signed. And it's usually cost plus 15%. So you have your direct costs, and you automatically get 15% on it. So, they will now be performing work that is not a line item for payment. Any and all materials that have been prefabricated in order will have to be paid for. I was involved in this. It cost the state $16,000, which was nothing, because they gave us a design change after I told them don't do it. They did it anyway. I had anchor bolts, I had drill shaft steel, I had structures ready to go. Couldn't use them anymore. New design. And that cost the taxpayers of Texas an extra $16,000 just for that. It doesn't include the new pricing for the new structures that came up to. So it was all said and done. It was like a $60,000 change order that should have never happened in the first place. Okay, the time spent refilling and compacting open trenches is an additional expense. They will also have to restore the property to its original condition or better when they leave. This is an extra cost, as was estimated as an incidental in the original bid. Demobilizing yards and equipment is another extra expense. And finally, lost profits because the owner is defaulting. In determining damages, I will use my experience with the TxDOT project 08-09. Excuse me. There were multiple conflicts on the US 75 project from 635 to Allen, approximately 15 miles. I made a film of the job site with a 7-page synopsis of all conflicts as outlined in the contracts and specification. Copies were distributed to all parties involved. They took no action in resolving them. I mean, zero. Could have addressed it and they didn't. Because of the conflicts that they didn't want to address, a year and a half later, the project was shut down for 8 months until it was redesigned. This led to all crews being reassigned. The general contractor demobilized. We were a sub. When the project finally restarted in May of 2009, we had accumulated over $300,000 in overhead expenses, of which the state was billed for. These were over and above any estimated costs, and we were due $300,000 for sitting on our dead asses waiting. The total contract was like $15 million, so our damages came into 2% of the contract. Apply that to the $1.375 billion that they had awarded, that the government awarded in contracts. That comes up to $27.5 million just in overhead. Add in all the cost plus charges, and the number will get close to $100 million. That's without attorney's fees. These numbers don't take into account if the projects restart, the additional remobilization and scheduling costs that will be added. Instead of shutting down with the stroke of a pen, wouldn't it have been wiser to sit down with the Army Corps of Engineers and see where today's technology could replace some of the proposed hard wall construction versus a virtual wall? Yeah, that would have been the prudent path, wouldn't it? The bottom line, we're still going to be paying for the wall with one caveat. As it stands, the American people won't be able to see what all that money went to. What will you do tomorrow, Joe? You don't just shut stuff down and say, okay, we're done. That's over. There are consequences to these actions, and it costs a ton of money to resolve it. And I'm sure every one of the 11 contractors involved in this are on the phone getting attorneys lined up saying the U.S. government just breached our contract. What is our legal course of action? And since I've been involved in it, they've got a lot. So we couldn't just think about it and get with the Corps of Engineers and work out, finish what's going on, see what other options are available. No, we've got to create this mess and put probably, 11 contractors. Let's just say 1,100 to 2,000 people out of work. Obviously, that's based on the size of the crews they had. So that estimate could be high. But we're in a time where people are looking for high-paying jobs, as Joe keeps saying. Well, how many of these were union contracts? How many were non-union? What was the top pay for the project managers, the superintendents, the assistant superintendents, the foremen, the lead men, and the list goes on? What were the guys on the ground making? What were the equipment operators making? Since this is a Davis-Bacon project, you are required to pay a minimum amount, and some of those are really good wages. Like if you're a backhoe operator, I think it's $18 an hour. That's a backhoe operator. Concrete finishers, 20. Carpenters, 25. I mean, these were high-paying jobs, and they're gone. What about all these high-paying union jobs in the oil and energy business that are going to be gone? You tell me that makes sense? You don't just shut it down because you can with a stroke of a pen. You have to have foresight. You have to have a plan. And Joe said, We will be transitioning jobs where there's no damn transitioning because there is no new energy source for these people to go to work at the wages they were making. I'm sorry. Those are the economics, and this is turning into a disaster, but I'll take that back. That's a little strong. Let's see how this plays out. But on the surface, it isn't looking good. Jeff Dawson, out.